The cargo bay doors of the transport ship opened with a loud hiss. Steam rolled out across the metal floor of Kepler Station's docking bay. Dr. Lisa Martinez stepped through the fog carrying 2 small bags and something much more unusual. 2 creatures sat on her shoulders like living scarves. They had black fur with bright blue stripes that glowed in the dim light. Their eyes were sharp yellow, and their claws caught the overhead lights as they moved. Each creature was about the size of a house cat, but nobody would mistake them for pets. Commander Jake Sullivan watched from the security booth above the docking bay. His hand moved to his weapon when he saw the creatures. He had been running station security for 12 years. He knew dangerous when he saw it. "Alert all units," he spoke into his radio. "We have a Code 7 in Docking Bay 12. Possible hostile biologicals." 6 security guards rushed into the bay. 3 were human, 2 were tall reptilian saurians with green scales, and 1 was a 4-armed centauran with blue skin. They all pointed their weapons at Lisa and her companions. Lisa stopped walking. She raised one hand slowly while keeping the other near the creatures on her shoulders. The 2 animals looked at the guards but did not move. Their glowing stripes pulsed in a steady rhythm. "Ma'am, please identify yourself and your cargo," called out one of the human guards named Officer Pete Morris. "Dr. Lisa Martinez, xenobiologist from Earth Colony 7, she replied. Her voice was calm and clear. "These are not cargo. They are my companions." Jake Sullivan came down from the booth. His boots made sharp sounds on the metal floor as he walked toward Lisa. The reptilian guards hissed when they got a better look at the creatures. "Those are Vorthak cubs," said Guard Captain Veltar, his forked tongue flicking out nervously. "Adult Vorthaks can tear through starship hulls. They killed 300 miners on Vorthan Prime last year." Lisa smiled, but did not move closer. One of the cubs made a soft purring sound and rubbed its head against her neck. The other one stretched and yawned, showing teeth that looked like tiny daggers. "Are those dangerous?" Jake asked. He kept his weapon pointed down but ready. Lisa looked at him directly. "Only if you threaten them." "That's what people say about bombs, too," Jake replied. He studied the creatures more carefully. They seemed relaxed, almost sleepy. One of them closed its eyes and appeared to take a nap. "Commander Sullivan, I've been raising Spike and Luna for 6 months," Lisa said. "Their parents died in a mining explosion. I found them in the wreckage when I was doing research on Vorthan Prime." "You named them Spike and Luna?" asked Officer Morris. He sounded surprised. "Spike has the longer claws," Lisa explained. "Luna has the brighter stripes. They respond to their names just like any other intelligent creature." The Centauran guard named Officer Kratos spoke up with his translator device. "Vorthaks hunt in packs. They kill for sport. This is madness." Lisa shook her head. "That's what everyone believes. But most people have never actually studied them. I have, for 3 years. Jake lowered his weapon but kept it in his hands. "Explain." "Vorthaks are highly social. They form family groups that last for life. When Spike and Luna lost their parents, they needed a new family. I became that family." To prove her point, Lisa made a soft clicking sound with her tongue. Both cubs opened their eyes and looked at her. She clicked again, and they climbed down from her shoulders to sit on the floor beside her feet. "Stay," she said in a normal voice. The cubs sat perfectly still. Their glowing stripes dimmed to a soft blue light. They watched the guards but showed no signs of fear or anger. Jake had never seen anything like it. In 12 years of station security, he had dealt with smuggled weapons, illegal drugs, and dangerous criminals. But he had never seen a human give commands to creatures that could kill a grown man in seconds. "How do we know they won't attack?" asked Captain Veltar. "Because they trust me, and I trust them," Lisa said. "Watch." She knelt down, and held out her hands. Both cubs climbed onto her palms. She lifted them back to her shoulders where they settled down like furry passengers. "Vorthax are predators," she continued, "but so are dogs, cats, and hawks. Humans have been making friends with predators for thousands of years. We just had to learn their language." A small crowd had gathered at the edge of the docking bay. Station workers and travelers watched from a safe distance. Some pointed and whispered. Others took pictures with their devices. Jake made a decision. "Dr. Martinez, you'll need to register your companions with station security. They'll need medical clearance and behavior evaluations." "Of course," Lisa agreed. "I have all their medical records and behavioral assessments in my files. They're both healthy and fully vaccinated." "And if they cause any trouble?" Jake asked. Lisa looked at Spike and Luna. They looked back at her with what seemed like understanding. "Then I'll take full responsibility. But, Commander, they won't cause trouble unless someone threatens them or me. They're not mindless killers. They're family." Jake holstered his weapon. The other guards followed his lead but stayed alert. "All right, Dr. Martinez. Welcome to Kepler Station. Officer Morris will escort you to the registration office." As Lisa walked through the station corridors, people pressed themselves against the walls to let her pass. Children stared with wide eyes. Adults whispered behind their hands. The cubs seemed to enjoy the attention, their stripes glowing brighter when more people were around. "They like crowds?" Officer Morris asked as they walked. "They like being social," Lisa replied. "Vorthax are pack animals. Being around others makes them feel safe and happy." "Even around different species?" Lisa nodded. "They don't see species the way we do. They see individuals. Some are threats, some are neutral, and some are potential friends. They judge each person by their actions, not their appearance." When they reached the registration office, Lisa filled out the required forms while Spike and Luna explored their new environment. They sniffed the air, examined the furniture, and watched the other people in the waiting area. A young saurian child approached them slowly. His mother tried to pull him back, but Lisa gave her a reassuring nod. "Hello, Spike," the child said in broken standard. "Hello, Luna." The cubs looked at the child for a moment. Then Luna climbed down from Lisa's shoulder and walked over to him. She sat down and purred softly. The child reached out carefully and touched her fur. Luna's stripes glowed brighter and she rubbed against his hand. The child's mother stared in amazement. "I thought they were killers. Only if you try to kill them first," Lisa said. "Otherwise, they're just looking for friends." Word spread quickly through Kepler Station that day. A human had arrived with two creatures that should have been impossible to tame. But there they were, sitting calmly on her shoulders, greeting strangers, and proving that sometimes the most dangerous things in the galaxy just needed someone to understand them. By evening, Lisa had completed all her paperwork and been assigned quarters in the civilian section. As she unpacked her belongings, Spike and Luna explored their new home. They found the softest chair and curled up together for a nap. Lisa watched them sleep and smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. More people would stare, more questions would be asked, and more fears would need to be addressed. But tonight, her family was safe and together. Outside her window, the stars of the frontier glowed like distant promises. Somewhere among them were other worlds, other species, and other creatures that people called monsters. Lisa wondered how many of them were just waiting for someone to see past the claws and fangs to the family underneath. 3 days had passed since Lisa Martinez arrived at Kepler Station. Word about the human with the Vorthax cubs had spread to every corner of the trading post. Some people came to look. Others stayed far away. Lisa sat in the main cafeteria eating breakfast. Spike and Luna perched on her shoulders, watching the morning crowd. The cafeteria had 3 levels connected by moving walkways. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species ate, talked, and conducted business. At the table next to Lisa sat Dr. Nolan Pierce, a human anthropologist who had been working on the station for 2 years. He was tall and thin, with graying hair and kind eyes behind wire glasses. "The Cathari merchants closed their shops yesterday," Nolan said, cutting his synthetic eggs. "They won't come to this section while you're here." Lisa sipped her coffee and looked around the room. Several tables sat empty near them. "Because of Spike and Luna?" "The Cathari evolved from birds," Nolan explained. "To them, your cubs look like the things that ate their ancestors. It's hard to get past millions of years of evolution." Across the room, a group of insectoid hive minds clustered together at a corner table. They had been watching Lisa for days, their compound eyes tracking her every movement. They whispered among themselves in clicking sounds that their translators couldn't interpret. "What about them?" Lisa asked, nodding toward the hive minds. "They're fascinated," Nolan replied. "Hive minds don't understand individual bonds. They can't figure out how you control the cubs without a shared group consciousness." Luna yawned and stretched, her claws extending briefly before retracting. Several diners at nearby tables tensed up and moved their chairs back. Lisa scratched behind Luna's ears, and the cub settled down with a contented purr. "I don't control them," Lisa said. "We're partners." A loud crash interrupted their conversation. Across the cafeteria, a large Gorlan trader named Brack had knocked over a chair. He was drunk on fermented algae juice and arguing with a Centauran merchant about shipping prices. "You blue-skinned cheat!" Brack shouted. His speech was slurred, and he swayed as he stood. "I know you're stealing my cargo." The Centauran, a female named Zira, backed away. "I follow all trade regulations. Check the manifests yourself." Brack stumbled toward Lisa's table. His small eyes were bloodshot, and his breath smelled like rotting seaweed. He pointed a thick finger at her data tablet. "Give me that," he demanded. "I need to check something." "This is my personal research device," Lisa said calmly. "You can't have it." "I'll take what I want," Brack growled. He reached for the tablet with one massive hand. Spike moved faster than anyone could follow. The cub leaped from Lisa's shoulder and landed on Brack's chest. His claws extended just enough to grip the alien's thick hide without breaking skin. Spike's yellow eyes stared directly into Brack's face, and his stripes glowed bright red. Brack froze. The tavern fell silent. Everyone stared at the small predator holding the large alien perfectly still. "Spike," Lisa said quietly. "Easy." The cub's stripes shifted from red to blue. His claws retracted slightly, but he didn't move from Brack's chest. The Gorlan's eyes were wide with fear. "He won't hurt you if you back away slowly," Lisa told Brack. "But you need to leave my table now." Brack nodded carefully. He took one step backward, then another. Spike watched him for a moment, then jumped back to Lisa's shoulder. The cub settled down and began grooming his paw as if nothing had happened. Brack stumbled away quickly. The other diners slowly returned to their meals and conversations. Lisa resumed eating her breakfast while Luna purred softly. "Remarkable," said Dr. Pierce. "Perfect threat assessment and restraint. Most predators would have drawn blood." "Vorthax understand the difference between a real threat and someone just being rude," Lisa explained. Brack was drunk and aggressive, but not actually dangerous. Spike knew exactly how much force to use. Commander Jake Sullivan approached their table. He had been watching from across the room. "Dr. Martinez, I need to file a report about this incident." "Of course," Lisa agreed. "Should I include Spike's behavioral analysis?" Jake paused. "His what?" "Spike assessed the threat level, determined the appropriate response, and executed a perfect restraint hold without causing injury," Lisa said. "In security terms, he performed a textbook de-escalation." Jake looked at Spike, who was now preening Luna's fur with his tongue. "You're saying he planned that?" "Vorthax are intelligent," Lisa replied. "They think before they act. Spike could have torn Brack's throat out in half a second. Instead, He chose to simply hold him still until the threat ended. A small crowd had gathered around their table. Lisa noticed several alien species she hadn't seen before. A tall, crystalline being that looked like living glass stood next to a furry creature with 6 legs and purple fur. "Excuse me," said the crystal being in a voice like wind chimes. "I am Resonance of Truth from the Silicon Collective. We wish to understand your bond with the predator cubs." Lisa stood up carefully, making sure not to disturb Spike and Luna. "I'm happy to explain. What would you like to know?" "How do you maintain pack loyalty without chemical markers?" asked the purple creature. Its translator gave it a squeaky voice. "My species uses scent glands for family bonding." "Humans form emotional bonds," Lisa said. "We use communication, shared experiences, and mutual trust instead of chemical signals." "But how do you establish dominance?" asked another alien, this one resembling a walking tree trunk. "Surely the predators must submit to your authority," Lisa shook her head. "There's no dominance. We're equals. I take care of them and they take care of me. It's based on love and respect, not power." The tree alien's bark rustled in confusion. "Love? What is this concept?" Dr. Pierce stepped forward. "Love is an emotional attachment that creates mutual loyalty and protective behavior. Humans form these bonds with family, friends, and other species." "Even with dangerous species?" asked Resonance of Truth. "Especially with dangerous species," Lisa said. "When you trust something that could hurt you and it chooses not to, that creates the strongest bonds possible." Luna climbed down from Lisa's shoulder and walked among the gathered aliens. She sniffed each one politely, then sat down and began purring. Her stripes glowed in soft, welcoming colors. The purple creature carefully extended one paw toward Luna. The cub sniffed it, then rubbed against the alien's fur. The creature's eyes widened in surprise. "She likes you," Lisa said. "Vorthax are good judges of character." "But I am prey species," the creature said nervously. "She should want to hunt me." "She might hunt you if she was starving and alone," Lisa admitted. "But she's not. She's well-fed and part of a family. She has no reason to see you as food." More aliens approached throughout the day. Some were curious, others fearful. Lisa patiently answered questions and allowed people to observe Spike and Luna from a safe distance. By evening, she had spoken with representatives from 12 different species. Each one had different concerns and misconceptions about predator behavior. "The Zephyrians think you use mind control," Dr. Pierce told her as they walked back to her quarters. "The methane breathers believe you're genetically modified to produce calming pheromones." Lisa laughed. "What do you think?" "I think you're showing them something they've never seen before," Pierce replied. "Most species have rigid social structures based on survival needs. The idea that predators and prey can be friends challenges everything they know about the universe." They stopped outside Lisa's door. Through the window, the stars beyond the station glittered like scattered diamonds. "Are you changing their minds?" Pierce asked. Lisa looked at Spike and Luna, who were drowsing on her shoulders after a long day of meeting new people. "I'm not trying to change anyone's mind. I'm just showing them what's possible when you look past your fears and see individuals instead of monsters." Inside her quarters, Lisa prepared for bed while the cubs explored their toys. She had brought several items from their homeworld, including rocks that smelled like the forests of Vorthan Prime and dried plants that reminded them of home. As she brushed her teeth, Lisa heard soft voices in the corridor outside. She listened carefully and recognized several alien languages being spoken in whispers. "The human and her death cubs," someone said in Saurian. "Not death cubs," another voice replied in Centauran. "Family cubs." "Same thing," insisted the first voice. "No," said a third voice in broken standard. "Very different thing. I saw today. Cubs chose not to kill." That is family behavior. Lisa smiled as she listened to the debate continue. Change was slow, but it was happening. One conversation at a time, one interaction at a time, people were beginning to understand that the line between predator and family member was thinner than they had ever imagined. She turned off the lights and settled into bed. Spike and Luna curled up on either side of her, their soft purring creating a gentle vibration that helped her fall asleep. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities to bridge the gap between fear and understanding. Outside her window, the station continued its eternal rotation, carrying hundreds of species through the darkness of space, all learning to live together despite their differences. The message came through on Lisa's personal communicator at 0600 station time. She was feeding Spike and Luna their breakfast when the urgent alert chimed. The cubs looked up from their bowls of processed protein cubes, their ears perked forward. "Dr. Martinez," said the voice of Director Helen Cross from the Galactic Wildlife Preservation Council. "We have a situation on Vorthan Prime. Adult Vorthax have occupied the abandoned mining facility where you found the cubs. They're attacking our survey teams and destroying equipment. We need your help." Lisa sat down heavily in her chair. Spike jumped onto her lap and looked up at her with concerned yellow eyes. Luna continued eating, but watched Lisa carefully. "How many adults?" Lisa asked. "At least 15, Director Cross replied. "They've torn apart 3 survey drones and damaged 2 shuttlecraft. The team can't get within a kilometer of the facility. We need you to bring the cubs and establish communication protocols." Lisa stroked Spike's fur while she considered the request. The cubs had never been around adult Vorthax since their parents died. She had no idea how they would react to their own species after 6 months of living with humans. "I'll need transport to Vorthan Prime," she said finally. "The research vessel Aurora's Edge is docked at Kepler Station. Captain Roy Chen will take you to the mining site." Lisa spent the next hour packing supplies and medical equipment for the cubs. Spike and Luna seemed to sense that something important was happening. They stayed close to her and watched her every movement. Dr. Pierce helped her carry the equipment to the docking bay where Aurora's Edge waited. The ship was sleek and white with the symbols of the Galactic Research Consortium painted on its hull. Captain Roy Chen met them at the airlock. He was a short, stocky man with graying hair and suspicious eyes. Behind him stood his first officer, a tall Centauran female named Zara, and his chief engineer, Katie Walsh, a red-haired woman with grease stains on her uniform. "Dr. Martinez," Captain Chen said, "I want to make something clear. I don't like having those things on my ship. If they cause any problems, they go out the airlock." Spike and Luna sat calmly on Lisa's shoulders, but their stripes darkened to deep blue. They could sense the captain's hostility. "They won't cause problems," Lisa said firmly. "They're well-behaved and trained." "Trained killers are still killers," Chen muttered as he led them through the ship's corridors. The Aurora's Edge had a crew of 12 beings from 6 different species. Lisa noticed how they all moved away from her as she passed. Conversations stopped when they saw the cubs. Several crew members openly stared. "Ignore them," said Engineer Walsh quietly. "Half the crew wanted to refuse this mission when they heard about your passengers." Lisa was assigned quarters in the science section. The room was small but comfortable, with a bed, a desk, and a small porthole that showed the stars outside. She set up the cubs' feeding area and sleeping cushions while they explored their new environment. The ship departed Kepler Station 2 hours later. Lisa felt the subtle vibration as the engines came online and the artificial gravity adjusted. Spike and Luna pressed their faces to the porthole and watched the station shrink into the distance. During the first day of travel, the cubs stayed in Lisa's quarters. She could hear the crew members talking in the corridors, their voices full of fear and speculation. Some wondered if the cubs would try to hunt them. Others questioned Lisa's sanity for bringing predators onto a spaceship. On the second day, Luna became restless. She paced around the small room and made soft, whimpering sounds. Spike joined her, and soon both cubs were clearly distressed. "They need exercise," Lisa told Captain Chen when she called the bridge. "Could they use one of the cargo bays for an hour each day?" "Absolutely not," Chen replied immediately. "Those things stay locked in your quarters." Lisa looked at Spike and Luna, who were now scratching at the door and making louder sounds of distress. "Captain, they're not happy. Unhappy Vorthax can become unpredictable." There was a long pause. "Fine, 1 hour in Cargo Bay 3, but I want security guards present." That afternoon, Lisa brought the cubs to the cargo bay. 2 human security officers and 1 saurian guard watched nervously as Spike and Luna stretched their legs. The bay was large enough for them to run and play, which they did with obvious joy. Engineer Walsh appeared in the doorway. She had been working on power conduits nearby and stopped to watch. "They're actually kind of beautiful," she said quietly. "Most people think so once they get used to them," Lisa replied. Luna noticed Walsh and approached slowly. The engineer backed up against the wall, but Luna simply sat down and tilted her head curiously. Her stripes glowed soft green. "What does green mean?" Walsh asked. "Curiosity and friendliness," Lisa explained. "She wants to get to know you." Walsh carefully knelt down and extended her hand. Luna sniffed it, then rubbed her head against the engineer's palm. Walsh's face broke into a surprised smile. "She's so warm," Walsh said, "and soft." Word of the engineer's interaction with Luna spread quickly through the ship. Over the next day, several crew members found excuses to pass by the cargo bay during the Cubs' exercise time. Most just watched from a distance, but a few brave souls tried talking to them. Navigation Officer Dan Turner was the first to actually pet Spike. The Cub had been investigating some interesting smells near the environmental controls when Turner approached. "Hello there, little guy," Turner said softly. "What are you doing?" Spike looked up at him and made a chirping sound. Then he resumed sniffing around a particular panel. "He's found something," Lisa observed. "Vorthax have excellent noses." Turner checked the panel that Spike was examining. His eyes widened. "There's a coolant leak here. It's so small our sensors didn't detect it, but it could have caused problems if it got worse." From that day forward, several crew members began treating Spike and Luna with grudging respect. The Cubs had proven their usefulness and shown that they could be helpful rather than threatening. First Officer Zara was the last to change her opinion. As a Centauran, she came from a species that had been hunted by predators for millions of years. Every instinct told her to fear the Cubs. But on the 3rd day of travel, something happened that changed her perspective completely. Zara was working alone in the navigation center when she had a panic attack. The stress of the mission and her fear of the Cubs had been building for days, and suddenly she couldn't breathe properly. She was hyperventilating and shaking when Luna found her. The Cub had been exploring the ship with Lisa when she heard the distressed breathing. Luna approached Zara slowly and began purring in a low, steady rhythm. "Get away!" Zara gasped, but Luna ignored her. The Cub climbed onto Zara's lap and continued purring while gently placing her paws on the Centauran's hands. The vibration of Luna's purring had a calming effect. Zara's breathing began to slow down as she focused on the steady sound. After several minutes, the panic attack subsided. "How did she know?" Zara asked Lisa, who had arrived to find Luna comforting the first officer. "Vorthax are pack animals," Lisa explained. "They're sensitive to distress in their family members. Luna was trying to help you feel better." Zara looked down at Luna, who was still purring contentedly in her lap. "Family members?" "She considers you part of her extended pack now," Lisa said. "You live in the same space and share the same air. To her, that makes you family." By the time Aurora's Edge reached Vorthan Prime, the crew's attitude toward Spike and Luna had completely changed. They were no longer seen as dangerous passengers, but as unusual crew members who happened to have claws and glowing stripes. Captain Chen still grumbled about having predators on his ship, but even he admitted that they had caused no problems. In fact, they had helped detect the coolant leak and provided emotional support to crew members. As the ship entered orbit around Vorthan Prime, Spike and Luna became increasingly excited. They pressed against the portholes and made soft, chittering sounds as they recognized their homeworld. Their stripes brightened and began pulsing in new patterns that Lisa had never seen before. "They remember," she said to herself, watching their reactions. "They know their home." Below them, the green and brown surface of Vorthan Prime rotated slowly. Somewhere in the dense forests and rugged mountains, adult Vorthax waited with unknown intentions. Tomorrow, Lisa would find out if the bond she had built with Spike and Luna was strong enough to bridge the gap between species and establish communication with their wild relatives. The cubs settled down for the night, but their stripes continued to pulse with excited energy. They were going home, and they could sense that their world was calling to them. Lisa hoped that when they met their own kind again, they would remember that she was family too. Outside the porthole, Vorthan Prime filled the view with its alien beauty. Somewhere on its surface, answers waited among the ruins of the mining facility. But first, Lisa and her unusual family would have to survive the encounter with creatures that the galaxy feared above all others. The shuttle descended through Vorthan Prime's atmosphere like a falling star. Lisa gripped her seat as the small craft shook and rattled through the turbulent air. Spike and Luna huddled close to her, their stripes flashing rapid patterns of orange and blue. "Atmosphere entry complete," announced pilot Marcus Webb from the cockpit. "Beginning approach to the mining facility." Through the shuttle's windows, Lisa could see the dense jungle canopy of Vorthan Prime spreading out below them like a green ocean. Massive trees with purple leaves created a thick carpet that stretched to the horizon. Rivers wound through the forest like silver snakes. Survey team leader Frank Rodriguez sat across from Lisa, checking his equipment for the 5th time. He was a nervous man with thinning hair and worried eyes. Behind him sat Dr. Emma Stone, a xenobiologist from the Galactic Research Consortium. "The adult Vorthax destroyed our last drone 6 hours ago," Rodriguez said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "They seem to be getting more aggressive." Lisa studied the data on her tablet. The mining facility sat in a cleared area at the edge of the jungle. Satellite images showed the destroyed remains of survey equipment scattered around the site. Dark shapes moved between the buildings, too fast for the cameras to capture clearly. "How many adults are we talking about?" she asked. 15 confirmed, Dr. Stone replied. "Possibly more hiding in the jungle. They're all fully grown, between 2 and 3 meters long." Spike and Luna looked up at Lisa when they heard the numbers. Adult Vorthax were 10 times larger than the cubs, with claws that could slice through metal and jaws strong enough to crush bones. "Are you sure about this?" Rodriguez asked, looking at the cubs nervously. "Those things down there aren't pets. They're weapons." "Spike and Luna aren't weapons either," Lisa said firmly. "They're family, and family takes care of family." The shuttle began its final approach to the mining site. Through the front window, Lisa could see the abandoned buildings and equipment. Everything looked normal from the air, but she knew that was deceiving. "Landing in 30 seconds, Pilot Webb announced. "Everyone hold on." The shuttle touched down with a soft thud in the center of the cleared area. For a moment, everything was quiet except for the hum of the engines cooling down. Then Spike and Luna began making sounds Lisa had never heard before. They chirped and clicked in rapid sequences, their heads turning toward the jungle. Their stripes brightened to intense blue-white. "What are they doing?" Dr. Stone asked. "I think they're calling," Lisa said. "They know their own kind are nearby." Rodriguez checked his scanner. "I'm reading movement in the tree line. Multiple contacts, all large." Through the shuttle's windows, They could see shadows moving between the trees. Yellow eyes glowed in the darkness under the canopy. The shapes were much bigger than Spike and Luna, with longer claws and more elaborate stripe patterns. "Should we abort?" Pilot Webb asked from the cockpit. Lisa looked at Spike and Luna. The cubs were excited but not afraid. They pressed against the windows and continued making their calling sounds. "No," Lisa said. "We came here to make contact. Let's do it." She opened the shuttle door slowly. The warm air of Vorthon Prime rushed in, carrying scents of growing things and distant rain. Spike and Luna immediately perked up as familiar smells reached them. Lisa stepped out of the shuttle with the cubs on her shoulders. The ground was soft under her feet, covered with fallen leaves and strange purple moss. The air felt thick and humid compared to the recycled atmosphere of space stations. "Stay close to the shuttle," Rodriguez called from inside. "Don't go more than 50 meters. Lisa walked toward the edge of the clearing. Behind her, she could hear the survey team preparing their emergency equipment. They were ready to leave at the first sign of trouble. The first adult Vorthak emerged from the jungle when Lisa was halfway to the tree line. It was enormous, easily 3 meters long, with muscles rippling under its black fur. Its stripes glowed deep red, and its eyes fixed on Lisa with predatory intensity. Spike and Luna made soft chirping sounds. The adult Vorthak stopped moving and tilted its head, listening. Its stripes shifted from red to orange. "It recognizes their voices," Lisa whispered to herself. A second adult appeared, then a third. Soon, 8 massive Vorthaks stood at the edge of the clearing. They were all focused on Spike and Luna, who continued their calling sounds. The largest adult, a female with scars across her snout, stepped forward. She sniffed the air carefully, testing for scents. Her stripes pulsed in slow, steady rhythms. "Dr. Martinez," Rodriguez's voice crackled through her radio. "You need to get back to the shuttle, now." Lisa ignored him. She was watching the interaction between Spike, Luna, and the adults. The cubs' behavior was changing. Their calling sounds became more urgent, and they climbed down from Lisa's shoulders. "Stay close," she told them, but they were already walking toward the adults. The scarred female approached Spike and Luna slowly. When she was close enough, she lowered her massive head and sniffed them carefully. Her stripes brightened, and she made a deep rumbling sound in her throat. The other adults crowded around, all trying to smell the cubs. There was no aggression, only curiosity, and what looked like recognition. They know each other, Lisa realized. These adults are from Spike and Luna's birth pack. One of the adult males, smaller than the female but still enormous compared to the cubs, began grooming Spike with his tongue. Another female did the same with Luna. The cubs submitted to the grooming with obvious pleasure, purring loudly. Lisa stood perfectly still, afraid to break the moment. She was watching a family reunion that should have been impossible. The cubs had been raised by humans for 6 months, but their pack bonds remained strong. The scarred female finished examining the cubs and turned her attention to Lisa. She approached slowly, her yellow eyes studying the human from head to foot. Lisa could feel the alien intelligence behind those eyes, measuring her, judging her. "Hello," Lisa said softly. "I've been taking care of your cubs." The female sniffed Lisa's hands and clothes. She could smell Spike and Luna's scent on the human, mixed with unfamiliar chemical traces from human habitation. The Vorthak's stripes shifted through several colors as she processed this information. Then something unexpected happened. Spike walked over to Lisa and rubbed against her legs, marking her with his scent. Luna did the same thing. Both cubs looked up at the adult female and made soft, chittering sounds. The female's stripes slowly changed to soft blue. She lowered her head until she was at Lisa's eye level and made a quiet, rumbling sound. Very carefully, she touched her nose to Lisa's hand. "She's accepting you," Dr. Stone's voice said over the radio. "The cubs are vouching for you." More adults emerged from the jungle. Soon, 15 massive Vorthacs surrounded Lisa and the cubs. They all showed signs of acceptance, with blue or green stripes and calm body language. "Why aren't they attacking our equipment?" Rodriguez asked through the radio. Lisa looked around the clearing. The destroyed survey drones and damaged shuttlecraft were scattered everywhere. But the Vorthacs weren't paying attention to them. They were focused entirely on the family reunion. They weren't protecting territory, Lisa realized. They were protecting family. She walked slowly toward the mining facility buildings with Spike, Luna, and several adults following her. The cubs seemed to know where they were going, leading her toward a particular building. Inside the building, Lisa found something that explained everything. Hidden in the basement were 4 more cubs, smaller than Spike and Luna and obviously younger. They had been living in the ruins since the mining accident, surviving on their own. "The adults weren't being territorial," Lisa said into her radio. "They were protecting orphaned cubs. This whole area is a nursery." The adult Vorthacs had gathered around the younger cubs, who were clearly malnourished and scared. Spike and Luna immediately began grooming their younger relatives, establishing family bonds that had been broken by the mining disaster. "Dr. Martinez," Rodriguez called over the radio. "The Galactic Wildlife Council needs to know about this. If this is a nursery site, we can't continue mining operations here." Lisa watched the Vorthacs caring for their orphaned young and felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The mining company would have to find another location. This place belonged to the Vorthacs now. "Tell the council that Vorthon Prime is off limits for industrial development," she said. "This isn't just a temporary gathering. It's a permanent family settlement." The scarred female approached Lisa again. This time she was carrying something in her mouth. It was a small piece of metal with strange markings on it. She dropped it at Lisa's feet and backed away. Lisa picked up the metal fragment and studied it. The markings weren't random scratches. They were deliberate patterns, almost like writing. The Vorthacs had language, and they were trying to communicate with her. "Frank," she said into her radio, "we need to set up a permanent research station here. The Vorthacs aren't just intelligent predators. They're a civilization." As the sun set over Vorthon Prime, Lisa sat in the clearing surrounded by the Vorthac pack. Spike and Luna played with their younger relatives while the adults watched protectively. The family was complete again, and Lisa had been accepted as an honorary member. She knew that tomorrow would bring challenges. The mining company would protest the loss of their claim. The Galactic Council would need extensive documentation to support her findings. Other species would question whether Vorthacs deserved protection. But tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight, she was part of a family that crossed species lines and defied every expectation about what was possible in the galaxy. The predator cubs on her shoulders weren't weapons or pets. They were bridges between worlds, proving that understanding could triumph over fear. The stars came out one by one as darkness fell. Somewhere among them, other worlds waited with their own misunderstood species. Lisa smiled and made plans for the future, knowing that her real work was just beginning. 1 month after returning from Vorthon Prime, Lisa Martinez stood before the Galactic Council in the Great Assembly Hall on Central Station. Representatives from over 200 species filled the amphitheater, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes under the bright lights. Spike and Luna sat on her shoulders, now noticeably larger than when she first arrived at Kepler Station. Their stripes had developed new patterns that marked them as adults in training. They watched the assembled delegates with calm yellow eyes, unbothered by the attention. "Dr. Martinez," announced Council Speaker Tharn, a tall crystalline being whose voice resonated like musical chimes. "Please present your findings regarding the Vorthon Prime incident." Lisa activated her presentation display. Images of the Vorthac family filled the air above the assembly. Many delegates leaned forward in their seats, while others shifted nervously at seeing the predators. "Honorable delegates," Lisa began. "What we discovered on Vorthan Prime changes everything we thought we knew about interspecies relationships. The Vorthax aren't mindless killers. They're a highly organized society with complex family structures and protective instincts." She showed images of the adult Vorthax caring for the orphaned cubs in the mining facility ruins. Several delegates made surprised sounds as they watched the supposedly dangerous predators gently grooming their young. "The adults weren't attacking mining equipment out of territorial aggression," Lisa continued. "They were protecting their children. Once we understood this, communication became possible." Ambassador Krelthan of the Saurian Confederacy rose from his seat. His green scales rippled as he spoke. "Dr. Martinez, even if these creatures show parental behavior, how do you explain your personal bond with them? Predators do not form attachments with prey species." Spike turned his head toward the Saurian ambassador and made a soft, chirping sound. His stripes glowed gentle blue, showing calm curiosity rather than aggression. "Ambassador Krelthan, humans aren't prey to Vorthax," Lisa replied. "We're something they'd never encountered before. A species capable of earning their respect and trust through consistent behavior and emotional understanding." She gestured toward Spike and Luna. "These cubs have lived among dozens of alien species for over 7 months. They've shown perfect behavioral control and have even helped prevent conflicts. They represent a new model for interspecies cooperation." The Hive Mind Collective representative, a cluster of insect-like beings that spoke in unison, buzzed with electronic voices. "How can individual bonds exist without shared consciousness? This defies logical social structures." Dr. Nolan Pierce, who had accompanied Lisa to the council session, stood up in the observer section. "If I may address the council, I've been studying Dr. Martinez's work for months. What she's accomplished isn't unique to her personal abilities. Other humans on Kepler Station have begun forming similar relationships with previously untamable species." The assembly fell silent. This was news to most of the delegates. "Explain," demanded the council speaker. Pierce activated his own data display. "Security reports from Kepler Station show a 78% reduction in interspecies conflicts since Dr. Martinez arrived. Humans have successfully mediated disputes between traditionally hostile species. They've established communication protocols with creatures that other races considered impossible to reason with." Images flashed across the display showing humans working peacefully alongside species that had been enemies for generations. Lisa recognized several faces from the station, including Jake Sullivan directing security operations with former adversaries working side by side. "The difference," Pierce continued, "is that humans see individuals rather than species classifications. They look past biological imperatives to find common ground based on emotional understanding." Ambassador Zephyros of the Avian Alliance fluffed his feathers nervously. "This is unprecedented. How do we know these bonds are stable? What happens when survival instincts override these emotional attachments?" Luna climbed down from Lisa's shoulder and walked across the speaking platform toward the ambassador. Several security guards moved forward, but Lisa held up her hand to stop them. "Luna will demonstrate," Lisa said calmly. The young Vorthak approached the avian delegate slowly, her stripes glowing soft green. Zephyros tensed as the predator came closer, every instinct telling him to flee. But Luna simply sat down at his feet and began purring. "She recognizes your fear," Lisa explained. "But instead of triggering her hunting instincts, it triggers her protective instincts. She's trying to calm you down." Ambassador Zephyros looked down at Luna with amazement. Against his better judgment, he reached out with one wing and gently touched her fur. Luna's purring grew louder and her stripes brightened. "Remarkable," the ambassador whispered. "She shows no predatory response at all." "Because you're not prey," Lisa said. You're a potential friend who happens to be nervous. Luna understands the difference." The demonstration sent ripples of conversation through the assembly. Delegates turned to each other, speaking in dozens of languages as they processed what they had witnessed. Commander Jake Sullivan appeared on the main communication screen, broadcasting from Kepler Station. "Council delegates, I'd like to add my testimony to Dr. Martinez's presentation." "Proceed, Commander," said the council speaker. "When Dr. Martinez first arrived at my station, I thought she was insane," Sullivan said honestly. "I've been running station security for 12 years, and I'd never seen anything like those cubs. But in the past month, I've watched something incredible happen." The screen split to show real-time footage from Kepler Station. In the images, humans worked alongside species that had previously been in constant conflict. Gorland traders negotiated peacefully with Centauran merchants. Hive-mind individuals participated in group activities with solitary species. "The cubs became ambassadors," Sullivan continued. "Other species started watching how humans interacted with dangerous predators, and they began trying similar approaches with their own traditional enemies. We've had to reassign half our security staff because there simply aren't enough conflicts to break up anymore." The council erupted in discussion. Representatives stood and called for recognition, all talking at once in a dozen different languages. The speaker had to use his harmonic resonance to restore order. "Dr. Martinez," the speaker said once quiet returned, "what do you recommend regarding future policy on interspecies relations?" Lisa looked around the assembly hall at the hundreds of faces watching her. Some showed fear, others curiosity, and a few displayed genuine hope. "Honorable delegates, I recommend that we establish interspecies bonding programs on trading stations throughout the galaxy, not forcing anyone to participate, but creating opportunities for species to interact as individuals rather than representatives of their biological categories." She paused to let Spike climb back onto her shoulder. "I also recommend funding research into the social structures of species we've classified as hostile. Many of them may simply be misunderstood." Ambassador Krelthin raised his hand. "Dr. Martinez, what about species that are genuinely dangerous? Surely some creatures cannot be reasoned with." "I'm sure that's true," Lisa admitted. "But how many species have we written off as dangerous without really trying to understand them? How many potential allies have we lost because we let fear make our decisions?" The methane breather representative, speaking through a translator robot, asked the question that everyone was thinking. "What is your next assignment, Dr. Martinez?" Lisa smiled and touched the data pad in her pocket. "The Council has approved my request to study the crystal wolves of Sigma Draconis. They're considered so dangerous that most species won't even mention their name out loud." A collective gasp went through the assembly. The crystal wolves were legendary for their ability to generate sonic attacks that could shatter starship hulls. Several delegates immediately began speaking in worried tones. "Dr. Martinez," the council speaker said carefully, "are you certain this is wise? The crystal wolves have destroyed every ship that has attempted contact with their system." "Maybe they're not trying to destroy ships," Lisa suggested. "Maybe they're trying to communicate, and we just don't understand their language." Spike and Luna both made chirping sounds, as if agreeing with her assessment. Their stripes pulsed in patterns that several delegates now recognized as signs of excitement and anticipation. "The Vorthax were considered impossible to communicate with, too," Lisa continued. "But we found common ground. If we can establish peaceful contact with crystal wolves, imagine what other relationships become possible." The council voted that afternoon. By a margin of 156 to 44, they approved Lisa's proposal for expanded interspecies bonding research. Funding was allocated for new programs on 15 frontier stations, and a special task force was created to study species previously classified as incommunicable. As the session ended, delegates approached Lisa to thank her and meet Spike and Luna personally. The cubs graciously accepted attention from beings they had never seen before. demonstrating the adaptability that made their bond with humans so remarkable. That evening, Lisa stood at the observation deck of Central Station, watching the stars beyond the great windows. Spike and Luna dozed on her shoulders, tired from their long day of diplomacy. Dr. Pierce joined her at the window. "You've started something that's going to change the galaxy," he said. "I hope so," Lisa replied. "There are so many species out there that we've never really tried to understand. How many friends are we missing because we're too afraid to look past the claws and fangs?" In the distance, a ship prepared for departure toward the Sigma Draconis system. Lisa's research equipment and supplies were already loaded aboard, along with specialized communication devices designed to translate sonic patterns. "Are you nervous about the crystal wolves?" Pierce asked. Lisa looked down at Spike and Luna, who had become bridges between species that everyone thought could never coexist. "A little," she admitted, "but I'm more excited than nervous. Every species we've called monsters has turned out to be family to someone." The next morning, Lisa would begin the journey to Sigma Draconis. She would carry with her the hopes of a galaxy, learning that the line between predator and protector, between monster and family member, was often just a matter of perspective. Behind her, Central Station hummed with activity as representatives from 200 species worked together to build a future where understanding mattered more than fear. The cubs on her shoulders had helped prove that sometimes the most dangerous things in the universe were just waiting for someone brave enough to offer friendship instead of a weapon. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new species, and new opportunities to expand the definition of family beyond the boundaries of biology. But tonight, as the stars wheeled overhead, Lisa Martinez and her unusual companions rested peacefully, knowing they had already changed the galaxy in ways that would echo through generations.